This is a short video about ITC, Instrumental Transcommunication. This is the YouTube edited version. In July of 2006, I began working with video ITC and the video feedback loop. This is when you point your camera at the TV, feed the output of your camera back into the television input, and record. Video ITC pictures are usually dark and lack in color. After the recording is done, the video is played back frame by frame. Each frame is 1/30th of a second. I found a strobe light and a video enhancer helped me to induce a feedback loop in some of the more difficult cases. These larger pictures were recorded on a 52-inch digital television. The next phase of experiments brings us to water. I had heard of someone using water and crystals to receive images of spirit, and I thought it sounded like a great idea. So I broke out my strobe light, a crystal, and a pan of water with a mirror in it. I was hoping that I would also receive faces appearing in the crystal. What happened next pleasantly surprised me. There were faces in the crystal, but they were very small. My attention was brought not to the faces in the crystals, but the faces that seemed to be appearing towards the edge of the pan, in the water, on the surface of the mirror. This led me to the conclusion that spirit used the available colors and light from the reflected surface to produce their images. To test this theory, I put an arrangement of colored paper on the ceiling to see if their faces would appear in the color that I provided them with. They did. One day I went to Walmart and bought a couple of mirrors and introduced them to the experiment setup, not knowing what would happen. Again, I was surprised, though I should be used to it by now. I was starting to see images appearing in the cosmetic mirror that was reflecting the halogen light. I was excited, so I affectionately gave this method a name and called it WARP, which stood for Water and Random Reflection Photography. It's a very simple idea. The halogen light reflects off the cosmetic mirror, which also reflects the water in the pan. When waves are made, the camera records the ripple of the waves mixed with light. It's not unusual to see faces appear in the area surrounding the mirror either. Here's a picture of an experiment in low light. Light is the most important ingredient of photography experiments. These two pictures were not recorded on the mirror or in the water, but as a reflection of light. The gentleman we see in this reflection has appeared more than once. Here he is in a different experiment. He reminds me of the Renaissance period. If you look closely at this picture, you will see a man bound to a pole with a chain. The links in the chain are more visible than the man who is bound in them. This is a picture of a man lying prone as he writes in his book, with an ink quill in his hand. The people that appear in these pictures are from different races, cultures, and from all walks of life. They are also dressed in clothing from various time periods. Water pictures usually tend to be very small. Here's a picture of a cat, a soldier, a woman praying. This is one of my favorite pictures. It's a beautiful woman in a veil looking to our right. If you record enough pictures, you will come to find that there are some people that you see quite often. I refer to these people as my spirit team. They have been there since the first video experiment, and they participate in every experiment that I conduct. I have come to recognize 6 or 7 of them by heart. Those of you that experiment should know that there is always someone by your side, helping, participating, and guiding your efforts. Nobody is alone. Spirit uses the available light and color to help form their images. Their pictures may be found in all 4 angles of view. They will also appear in pictures that are inverted, just like a photograph negative. My theory is that spirit is able to manipulate light waves, just like they manipulate sound waves to form EVP. The next phase of experimenting went back to the basics of just water, light, a mirror, and mild color tones for the reflective background. As I have shown, spirit images will appear in the colors that you give them. It's very rare to be able to capture a spirit image that includes distinct eye formation. This picture is the best one I have so far. We're told that the ability of mediumship is inherent within all of us. I can't tell you your future, and I don't hear spirit voices in my head, but by working with ITC, in effect, that is actually what we are doing. We are providing the means for spirit to communicate and make their presence and message known. What is their message? That life exists after death, and that each one of us is spirit ourselves. Sometimes I present what I call comparison pictures. What that means is that I see something that I recognize, or a familiar thought crosses my mind, prompting me to make a comparison. When I make comparison pictures of people, I do not and cannot claim who the person in the picture is, only that I see some similarities are present. To make a true comparison, I need to improve the pictures. Sometimes I see what appear to be famous landmarks and famous events in history. In this one, I was able to compare what appears to be the Sphinx in Egypt with one of the pyramids in the background. After a couple of months of experimenting with water, I decided to try taking pictures of people in spirit and make collages out of them. The idea was to make a more sustainable impact by concentrating more images in a single picture. Also, I was trying to accommodate those in spirit who were making their presence known, rather than having some of their pictures never be seen. It was a step forward, but I realized that they were still difficult to see, and I then decided to try and extract them from the surrounding environment. This led me to what I call cutouts. In cutouts, a lasso tool was used to extract the images so they would be easier to distinguish. I keep all the original pictures and videos from my recordings. For those of you who are curious, the only editing techniques I use are adjustment of brightness, contrast, and exposure. In several pictures I have seen what appears to be mirror images of the same person, but from two different angles. Experimenting with ITC can sometimes be tedious, but it is also very rewarding and exciting to try new things. Here are some samples. This is a sample of webcam video ITC. And here's video ITC with a twist. The TV was recorded, reflected in a pan of water. This one is exactly what it looks like, water splashed onto a mirror. The next two pictures are water in a wine glass, attempting a computer feedback loop. The colors turned out very pretty. Some of the objects that I see in the pictures turn out better than the pictures of the people themselves. In this first one, this shiny helmet brought my attention to the man wearing it. This is another one of my favorite pictures. We see a boot made of materials sewn together. Notice that we can also see a strap. This picture appears to be a hat, though we cannot see who's wearing it. This is a picture of a weapon. It seems to serve more than one purpose. It can be used as a club or an axe, and it has a spike on the end. I have seen many pictures of people holding banners and flags. This is the best sample so far. This brings us to the newest area of experimentation, fire and smoke. Like most things, I didn't know if it was going to work until I tried it. I feel that the advantage of smoke is that spirit is able to influence particles on a small scale, which in turn make up the larger picture. Most of these pictures are not as small as the other methods. They appear. As with most photographic ITC work, it is up to the experimenter to provide the palette for spirit to use to form their pictures. I try to use a color that contrasts the object in the foreground, in this case a dark background to contrast the white smoke. We've all heard about people seeing things in clouds. They call it pareidolia. It means our brains are mistakenly interpreting the random things we see as recognizable. While that may occur, what about these pictures? What do you think? Are we all imagining the same faces? Sure enough, once enough work has been done in these areas, more people will eventually come to the realization that spirit isn't in some faraway place or a figment of our imaginations. Spirit is right here with us. Always has been, always will be. Spirit also appeared in fire during these experiments.